Okay. Good evening. July 21st, 2022, Planning Board meeting at Tyngsborough Town Hall. We're going to open the meeting. Before we do, we have exits in the rear and to my left, you're right if you're facing me, for emergency exits. First thing I want to do is we're just going to, if I can get a motion from the board to go down to the annual board officer selection made on June 16th. Chaz, we'll discuss it. Chaz is going to step down and we're going to have a motion and have a new vice chair nominated. If I can get a motion from the board to okay it.
Is there a reason that we're doing this?
Yeah, Chaz was going to step down.
So I've been asked by a member of the board if I would mind stepping down to give him an opportunity to become the vice chair. I'm pretty busy with other things in town, and it seemed fine to me. I have no problem. I serve at the pleasure of the board. If the board would like me to stay on, that's fine. If the board would like to have someone else be vice chair, that's fine with me as well. So David approached me about taking on some more responsibility, being vice chair. Again, that I've got enough going on at this point that I'm happy to let him be the vice chair if he would like to.
Open it up to the board if you want a discussion or nominate Dave.
I have no comment right now. You can.
I'll nominate Dave for vice chair. Looking for a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, thanks. Congratulations, Dave.
Thanks, Chaz.
Thanks, Chaz, for your, everything you do for the town. Appreciate it. He's not giving up his seat, though, Dave. Just so you know.
Once again, I like this seat, he likes that one. Keep it.
All right, open it up, 406, 424 Middlesex Road, map 11 and 12, parcels 2 and 29A. Tyngsborough owner LLC applicant for site plan special permit under 1.16.20 and a special permit under section 4.11.00 of the Tyngsborough zoning bylaws for the proposed construction of a 492,750 square foot major industrial complex in an I-1 zoning district.
Mr. Chair, new Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, happy to be here. Hope everybody's having a good summer. We're here from the last public hearing to just bring you up to speed on, project changes and where things have gone and plan improvements and things of that nature. So we do have another slide presentation to kind of make it more cohesive. I do have Hillary Holmes from Langen. I've got Kerry Pike, traffic. She's here in place of Krista Lucas, who was here last time, and Zach Scheinberg, who's the principal of the applicant. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Hillary.
Yes, so if you could go to the next slide, please. So part of the agenda, as Pete said, we're going to just give a project update in terms of what's happened since our last hearing, what changes have been made to the site plans. We'll go through some landscape section views that we've since developed. We'll also go through some project imagery board related to the retaining wall, and then we're going to discuss some restoration plantings that we're going to be proposing as part of the project. And you can skip to the project update slide. So a couple, yeah. So since the last hearing, well, prior to, just before the last hearing, we received peer review comments. Then we attended a site walk on June 29th with members of the Conservation Commission as well as some of the members of the Planning Board. There were certain comments, questions that came up that I will address later as part of this presentation related to the retaining wall and some of the views. We submitted a response to the peer review comments on June 30th. We received the second peer review comments back on June 14th, or that should be July 14th, I apologize. The main items that are still outstanding relate to new comments regarding the easement rights for work and access for the neighboring properties, review by the fire department and the sewer commission. We've since transmitted plans to both the fire department and the sewer commission. And there are 3 waivers that are requested. One is for the 0.5% slope on drainage pipes that the peer reviewer was in support of, and the increase for the post-development 2-year peak flow at one particular design point, which the peer reviewer was also in support of. And then for number 3, the waiver for the post-development stormwater volume increases from pre-development at 3 design points. That was one that the peer reviewer is not in support of at this time, and has recommended that we meet separately with the town engineer, the peer reviewer, as well as the town planner. So we are going to be setting up a meeting for next week to discuss that in more detail.
Can I just interject on that point quickly? The concern there, as we've, tried to design the stormwater management system and also maximize, the size of the building and impervious, for changes that are made to these things, it either increases the complexity and cost of the stormwater management system, or it potentially reduces the size of the building and the impervious, both of which can have substantial economic impacts on the project. So I think the mindset's going to be that the design team is going to take a look at it to see what kind of headway we can make there towards compliance. But we're hoping the board will keep an open mind so that we can balance trying to get to compliance versus not making this project uneconomic arising from those changes. So if you could just keep that in mind as a general philosophy. We will have the breakout meeting. We're going to run those calculations. We're going to run the costs, just so that we can understand what those impacts are, so that when we are at the breakout meeting, we'll share that information so that the board's aware of it. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No, great. So I just want to go over briefly some of the main changes related to the stormwater design for what was submitted as part of the resubmission on June 30th. So just in general terms, there were some changes to the 2 of the surface basins, the infiltration base, as well as to 2 of the subsurface systems. All of those changes related to test pit data that we had conducted and received in the field. So there were just adjustments that had to be made related to shifting some of the systems out of test pit areas where there was some modeling that would suggest estimated seasonal high water table, or shifting them out of some higher rock elevations, just to ensure that we were indeed providing 4 feet of separation from the bottom of our infiltration practices to any observed modeling or any observed rock. So for the western basin E1, that's sort of the bottom left of the screen, we shifted it a little bit east, we reshaped it, and the bottom was raised due to some modeling that was observed and a rock outcrop that was observed. For the system that is right to the right of it, which is underground system E2, it was slightly shifted north due to some of the shell rock found in one of the test pits, and the bottom of the system was also raised. For basin E3, the one that's all the way to the top of the screen, that one, we also raised the elevation just to ensure that it was 4 feet above the estimated seasonal high water table. The basin that is to the right on the screen, that one did not change. That one remained completely the same. The underground system that's to the left of the screen shifted slightly north, and the shape was changed due to some rock that we have found in one of the test pits. So that's the bulk of the changes. So some stormwater piping had shifted and changed with those as well. This is just an updated site plan rendering, just that reflects those changes that were made. And then if we go to the next sheet, so one of the questions that came up, in particular on the site walk, was sort of the view sheds and what would be visible if you're looking on Middlesex Street, if you're coming, Middlesex Road, and you're coming sort of from the south, coming north, you know, how much of the building would be visible. So we did these cross sections through the site on Middlesex Road in 2 locations. So section A at the top is a section going right from Middlesex Road through our driveway, through the parking lot to the building. So you can see, you know, the Middlesex Road is to your right, so that would be, you know, where the car would be. And you can sort of see where we have the darker trees are the ones that are actually through the section. The ones that are sort of shaded back would be kind of like in the background. In terms of what's visible during the spring, during the summer, you know, those trees are going to block the view of the building. In the winter or in the fall, you know, you are going to see, or it's going to be more visible, right? And then on section B, which is down on the bottom, that section was taken more from the southeastern corner of the site, sort of through that, near that like smaller little plaza that's south of our site, through the corner, looking towards the building. And that's really an area where we aren't touching any of the trees. Like all of the existing trees in that area are to remain. So as you're coming from the south and going north on Middlesex Road, and you're looking towards that direction, towards that corner, you know, you're not going to see the building, just due to all of the trees. And you can see that dashed line that kind of cuts right through the trees. There's just not going to be a view. And I would say in the winter and fall then, when the leaves are off, you know, you're going to get more of a filtered view of the building through the branches, through the trees. And then the next sections that we cut were through on the other side, so on the western side of the site. So we looked at sort of what 2 views looking from Route 3 towards the building. So the top C section is if you are kind of looking at the lower left corner of the site, so like sort of southwest, looking towards the building. You can see that, you know, you have a number of trees that are providing a buffer between Route 3 and our site. So really there's going to be no view of the building, you know, in the summer and spring. You know, in the winter and fall, there's going to be more of a filtered view through some of the trees and the branches. The lower section DD, that one's a little bit further north along Route 3, closer to sort of where the wooded area, where the buffer that's along Route 3 gets a little bit narrower, and you have sort of Route 3 a little bit of a treed buffer, and then you have the wetlands. So the grade certainly goes down a little bit lower. You can kind of see the grade that's along the dash line at section DD. So even there, you have that treed buffer that's right along Route 3. So that's going to block the view. Again, with that, in winter and in fall, you know, you are going to get more of a filtered view then through the trees. Are there any questions about these sections?
Just if you go back to the first view from Middlesex Road.
Yes.
The bottom one, you're saying that's coming south, up, headed north.
Yes.
So the power lines would be on this side, correct?
Yeah, so you have the power lines, and then you have a treed area that's existing that's not within the site that's not being touched. So you can kind of see that sort of like smaller plaza that's right below the site, and then directly west of that, there are existing trees that are not part of, you know, any removal as part of the project.
So you're saying with coming up, going south to north, you're not gonna be able to see that building?
Not from that angle, no, not because of
Not
the,
from the street, but you
Yeah,
can
from
see
the
it
street.
further down, coming up Middlesex Road, I'm assuming.
at
correct?
this particular angle,
But that's almost in front, correct?
yeah, well, it's, you can see the red line, the sort of key plan in the corner. There's like a red line that says BB, so that's where that section's cut. So you have woods all along that area, and then you have the power lines that are kind of, you know, obviously it's a little more barren, cleared in that area, but the woods between the power lines and our site are going to buffer the view, and particularly because of the grade that those trees are at in the building versus,
So the
Lower
trees
grade.
are gonna be higher than the building,
Yes.
is what you're saying?
yes. Well,
Because we were
The
talking
view,
about
it's-
layering
yeah.
it out on the sidewalk.
well, you're not gonna be able to see, like, if you're down at the road, like in your car, looking up, because of the trees, the existing trees, you're not gonna be able to see the building at that particular location.
So if you're driving on Middlesex Road, south to north, you're not gonna be able to see it.
Well, this
Even
is-
further down, you know what I'm saying? If you're
Yeah,
further down
yeah.
by the ice cream shop or,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Go to the retaining wall?
Yes.
Retaining wall.
So I know that also on the site walk, there were some questions about the retaining wall, you know, in terms of what the retaining walls would possibly look like. Obviously, we have various heights of our retaining walls throughout the site. We wanted to put together some imagery in terms of what we intend to do. You know, these examples are a smaller scale block, segmental retaining wall. We really want to do more like brown earth tones. We feel like that would be a more appropriate and would help sort of camouflage the wall a little bit versus like a stark, brighter color. So those three images represent that. And I think also the scale of the block is also smaller. We think that lends itself a little bit better for these types of walls versus a very large scale block.
Trying to avoid the Lowe's appearance.
Yeah.
Everybody loathes.
Did you get into any layering?
So right now we're not showing layering. So we do have, like if you go back to the section view, would be the very top one. Yeah. So AA, you can see where we have the retaining wall. So we have a very robust screen of trees that are down in front of the wall. And then we have a very robust screen of trees that are at the top of the wall. So you can sort of see relative to the height of the trees to the wall, you know, those are really going to help screen the wall. I will also point out that, you know, because of the grades that we have on site and how far back we are with the wall from the street, you're going to only get like a sort of V-shaped view of the wall. Because of the grades on our, if you're looking towards the site to the north, you know, we have slopes that are coming up at a 3-to-1. On the other side too, we have slopes that are coming up. So it's not all flat laid out in front of the wall.
It's not like Lowe's. I mean, Lowe's, you have flat street level, and there's the behemoth of the wall right there.
And the height of that wall is still,
Yeah, so the maximum height of that wall is 27.5 feet. And then it tapers down to grade to the north and to the south as it wraps around the parking lot. And if you can go back to the retaining wall, and one other suggestion or thought that we had, if the wall and the trees, you know, that it's still a concern in terms of what it would look like, we could consider doing some vining plants. You could plant the vining plants at the bottom and at the top of the wall. That would also help screen the wall as well, so that's something that we could also consider adding to the plan. It's not currently shown on the plan right now, but if it's something that the board would like us to consider and add to the plan, we could certainly do that. And this sheet just shows in terms of the trees at the top. These are the trees that we're proposing at the bottom and at the top of the wall. And then the 3 pictures below are examples of some of the vining material that could be planted to climb up that wall.
I can attest that Virginia creeper grows well here.
So one other comment that we had received, and this was a comment that we received at our Conservation Commission hearing, as well as on the site walk, there was a concern about the number of trees that we're removing, and in particular, the number of trees that we're removing within the surface infiltration basins. So we did quantify that based on sort of our tree removal estimate that was previously done, looking at just within the basin, like how many trees are estimated to be removed. There's about 90 trees that are estimated to be removed at those locations of those infiltration basins. So thinking through that, what could we sort of add, or how could we propose to provide some restoration for the project? We thought of doing these scattering throughout the site closer to the existing tree line and closer to the wetland buffer. Some restoration plantings of whips, like tree whips. They're like a smaller tree that you get in you can purchase in a gallon size container. They're about 4 to 6 feet tall. The whip is, half an inch to 3/4 inches. So we, as part of the restoration, we can cluster these within these spots that we're showing in sort of this bright green. And we would estimate all of these locations combined, a total of around 350 whips we would propose in these locations. And it's smaller material that will grow over time and kind of improve the habitat and sort of improve the restoration of those slopes. And those whips, a number in terms of 350, they typically have a 60 to 70% of them have a survival rate of 60 to 70%. So that's why, you put in around 350, only 2/3 of them will probably actually take and survive.
How big do they get?
They're trees. So, they start out small, but we do show pictures of the species that we're proposing. So over time, they'll grow to a full-size tree. So that's something that we're not currently showing on our plan, but based on the comments we received, we'd like to propose that and add those to the plan. I don't know if the board has any comments regarding that, if it's kind of a step in the right direction.
You all set? And I'll open it up to the board.
Well, we have other components to the presentation. I don't know if you want to just save it at the end, or you want to do it by professional.
Piece by piece,
Yeah.
I think, and so it doesn't get away from anybody. I'll open it up to the board. Jeremy?
Sure. Could you explain where the 27'6" height wall is located? Is it right at the entrance, or is it off to the left, right?
So it is, as you go up the site driveway, the wall that is on the east side of the parking lot. So it runs north to south, right between where the site road runs north to south and that parking lot. The site wall is right between there.
But it essentially dissipates as it goes left and right.
Yeah, so at the highest point is where that T intersection is, and that's at 27.5. And then it wraps around, and as it wraps around to the north and as it wraps around to the south, it comes down in grade to meet grade.
And I was just going to feed off what Steve was saying. Is there any objection to, I know this requires a little bit more work, a little bit more space, just breaking that wall in a segment there? Because two 14-foot walls looks better than a 28-foot wall. I didn't know if we could get something where there's plantings on top of the 14-foot wall to break up that scale of that.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the way we've spaced it, we've provided ample room in the front and the back for those tree plantings at the bottom and the top. If we were to break it up and create sort of a terrace effect with two walls, we would look at having to eliminate that entire row of parking to the east. So it can be done, but it would be done at a loss of parking for the project.
I'd challenge you to try to figure it out a little bit. I mean, if there can be a small area that can break up that wall. It's just, I understand putting vines can help with the aesthetics of that wall, but it really comes down to the overall scale of the wall.
Yeah, well, I just want to make one point, which is that. Thanks. So I just want to make one point on that the our ability to market this to tenants so that the project is economically feasible and we have tenants paying rent. The market really demands a certain ratio of parking. We're already a little bit under that ratio, so we're doing everything possible to try to not take any more parking out of the development plan. So we would love to be able to terrace it. The problem is we lose a significant amount of parking if we do that. But to Hillary's point, I mean, we're trying to do our best to accommodate the green view corridors that you guys want, because it looks nicer for us. Also, it looks nicer for tenants by putting trees in front and then trees on top too.
Just, if you don't mind, Jeremy, I thought that the parking, I read you had over 100 extra spots, or 137 or something earlier. It only required so many, and you had already overbuilt parking spots. Right?
So the code, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's 1.4 employees to one parking space. Is that right? In the code?
It also includes, one space per vehicle for the operation.
Okay, so we have been estimating the number of employees we think are going to be at the building because we don't have tenants yet. So the market standard for this, which makes it from the perspective of a tenant, the tenant is not going to ask if you have enough parking if you're hitting approximately one space per 1,000 square feet. I think we have 427 parking spaces, which is about 60 spaces below that threshold. So we are trying to hit what the market looks for and has been looking for, and we're getting as close as we can. But given the constraints of the site, we're still below that.
So you're below, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you were hypothetically to eliminate that row, how many spaces would be eliminated? Because if there only has to be the 27.5 feet has to be cut down, terraced. We're probably not terracing all the way across where it's feathering down.
Right. So it would be.
Have to terrace, a portion of that.
Sure. So it would either be that row all the way on the east, and or potentially moving into the drive aisle. And if we have to get rid of the drive aisle, we can't use the next row of parking because there's no way to get there. And that first row to the east, I don't know how many parking spaces are there. I would guess 40 to 50. And then that just makes it too difficult for us to go to the market and try to get tenants.
I guess one thing I do want to point out is sort of on the driveway, that green area that's directly to the north of the driveway, that is a slope that is down at the driveway around 170, and it's coming up at a 3-to-1 slope, and comes up to 200 to meet existing grade at that corner of the property where the property sort of juts in. So the wall at the highest point is around 205. So when you're looking down the driveway, you're actually going to see that part of the existing slope is actually going to block the view of a good portion of half of that parking lot and wall to the north. So it's just something to consider when you're looking at the sort of the view if you were to look straight down the driveway.
Jeremy, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm good.
Will we be discussing lighting a little later?
We certainly can. I know we did receive one comment per the peer review in terms of some light overspill, which we did address and revise our photometrics for. But we're open to any questions. We weren't going to present the lighting per se.
Just thinking about, not having as much lighting as possible spilling off the site, or, we don't want that to be like you're driving down Route 3 and there's this glowing building. So,
Well, the lighting specifics are on the plan set already.
Yeah, the lighting specifics, there is a photometric plan provided as part of the submission. So we are meeting the town's standards in terms of the lighting for the site, and we're also following international lighting standards in terms of number of foot candles and sort of cutoffs.
where will the signage be on the property?
Directional signage or signage like a monument sign for the building.
The second one.
Second one, so if you go to the,
Do we have this, Eric, that we can look at here?
Yep, this presentation is inside the meeting packet folders. It's labeled as presentation. You can see it. If you sort your files by last modified, it's the top one.
Okay, yeah, I
Where
got
can
it.
I go,
There's
Hillary?
two meeting, yeah. There's
yeah,
two
so
public meetings, got it.
if you're looking at Middlesex Road, we have the small parking lot that we're providing for Nature's Remedy that's right directly to the north of the driveway. The sign that we're proposing is right between the site driveway and that parking lot. It would be sort of right in that green strip between the two. We show it on our site plan and we do call it out. It's just at this scale, it's just not visible.
Jess?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the Conservation Commission, we discussed moving those infiltration basements underneath the parking lot. Have you had any more discussion about that internally to do that?
Yes. So we did look at that closer relative to the cuts and fills that we have on site, as well as the test pit data. And because the majority of our site, we are in a cut situation and we have a lot of rock that we're cutting into, the majority of the building as well as the area south of the building and coming up on the western and eastern parking lot, probably about almost halfway, I mean, that's all gonna be cut, and it tends to be in rock based on our test pits and borings. So if we were to try to put those infiltration systems below grade, we would be looking at trying to find pockets where, we don't have any rock, where we have good soils, and we've already moved around the existing underground systems considerably to kind of find pockets of spaces that are where we had good results and that worked. If we were to move those systems underground, you're looking at detention systems instead of infiltration, which do not lend themselves to being able to recharge and recharge the groundwater below. If they're detention systems, they're really just storing water. They're not reducing the amount of volume that's leaving the site. So it would actually put us in a worse position if we were to try to put more underground do detention. I'm not saying it's not entirely feasible. There would have to be more test bits, more extensive studies, and we feel that for these particular infiltration basins, they are going to be planted with meadow seeding. We are proposing the restoration with the whips. We feel that we are providing sort of ecological benefit to what we are proposing for this.
So if you were to use those as retention basins underneath the parking lots, could you not then use that water to water some of the plantings and so forth that you would be putting in?
Yeah, I mean, water reuse is something that could be looked at. I think that the only downside to water reuse is that you can only reuse the water during the summer and the spring. You know, you wouldn't be able to use that water during the winter and parts of the fall. So, you know, so there, you know, during those months, then, you know, the water's not gonna, wouldn't be used.
What's the economic impacts to make those changes too? Are they substantial to go from?
Well, what's the overall cost of this project, the development? Do you have an idea of that?
Right now, based on our design?
Yes.
The hard costs and soft costs are probably in the neighborhood of $85 million.
I mean, I will say that we're also, as part of the stormwater volume item, and trying to look to see if we can decrease the amount of stormwater volume at 3 of the design points, we are going to have to look at the stormwater system to sort of see, you know, what can be done. So taking those infiltration basins away sort of compounds the issue even further.
So the infiltration basins, I mean, as that property sits right now, where those are is getting water anyway, and no more than it would be getting a lot more water into those basins than currently is getting now, correct?
You mean at those particular locations? So, I mean, at those basins, it's wooded now, right, correct? So are you asking if in a wooded condition, those areas would see the same amount of like infiltration as if they were non-wooded?
I'm just saying that, okay, we're taking all the water out of the 41-acre project and putting it in these 3 or 4 different spots, overloading it. In my opinion, if we were to put them underneath and use that water, I mean, I understand what you're saying about the winter. So what are we talking about for winter when you would not be able to use that water? That if it's the winter and you've got snow, you're going to push the snow out of the way anyway. I don't see how much water is actually going to get into the detention ponds or the detention underneath the parking lot. I guess I'm just having a hard understanding why we couldn't do that and free up all these infiltration ponds.
I mean, water reuse for irrigation, it can certainly be done on projects. It's not something that's currently being proposed as part of this warehouse project.
So I get, you're going in, it's going to be devastating, catastrophic to any wildlife up there. Taking out 6,000 trees, leveling that whole thing off. If we could pull the project in a little bit without those infiltration ponds, I think we could save a bunch of trees and have less environmental impact on that property.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to balance the desires of, obviously, our client and the proponent to put in the warehouse and put in the parking, and also balance the need for stormwater management to meet the town's requirements. So I guess limiting the ability to put in infiltration basins certainly does impose more a challenge on the client than if the decision would be from the town that we can only put underground systems in place.
What they've been trying to do, I mean, obviously, as you can see with all the modifications, they're trying to address every single comment that the board and the peer reviewer has raised through this process, both boards. And I think they've done a great job doing that. They've made a lot of concessions along the way. But there's going to come a point where, unless the ask is like some super substantial benefit to what the ask relates to versus the economic negative impacts on the project, there will come a point where those two are irreconcilable anymore. So what we're saying is on issues like that and issues like the stormwater, these design changes that you're talking about, we're at that line. So they've really tried to work hard to try to get there, and they're gonna do it again. We're meeting with Eric, and they're gonna rerun some numbers. And they'll take a look at costs that are associated with the ask that you're making right now. But I suspect in the final analysis, it will be to the point where this is the best we're gonna be able to do to kind of coexist those two competing concerns. You know, that's the only.
And that's true of every project. I understand
It is,
that.
you know, and there's negative impacts in the environment, whether it's a single-family home or a warehouse. I mean, this is a major economic development project for Tyngsborough. Obviously, there's gonna be some impacts to the existing conditions. I mean, that's to be expected. But there will come a point where you'll face a decision that, are those impacts so important that you want to, you know, effectively not approve the project? So I think we're close on that line right now. So we'll try to ferret out some of those things in the breakout meeting that we have. And then we'll let you know sort of like last and best position that we can achieve on the system. And then
I mean, perhaps you could eliminate one of those basins by putting it under the parking lot.
yeah, we're going to take a look at those issues in the breakout session and see if we can
I-
work through it.
Can you, so we're talking about this breakout, can you tell us how far apart we are with the stormwater and what that involves at this point, just so that the board has an understanding of that and
Sure.
people at home have an idea of what's going on with that?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so in terms of the design points, we have design point A, which is at Middlesex Road, where there is a volume increase in the post-development condition compared to the pre-development condition for the 2-year, 10-year, 25-year, and 100-year. I would say that increase, it varies, but for the 2-year up to the 100-year, it's about 0.5 acre feet increase in the 2-year up to a 1 acre foot increase in the 100-year. For design point E, which is the wetlands, the north of the site, for the 2-year, that's the only storm where we're not meeting, or wait, sorry, the 2-year, we are meeting the volume requirement. For the 10, 25-year, and the 100-year, we are not meeting the requirement, and that ranges from 0.1 acre feet up to 1.1 acre feet. For design point F, for the 2-year storm event, we are meeting the requirement. For the 10-year up to the 100-year, we are not, and that's by 0.05 up to around 0.5 acre feet. All of the other design points, as part of the project, we are meeting the requirement.
So for the layman folks,
Allison to chime in?
yeah, Allison, do you want to?
Yeah, so I do think that there's a middle ground that we can all reach with this that benefits both parties. It just has to be discussed. I don't think there's a point that this won't be fixable or we can't come to a conclusion with this.
So is it a matter of redirecting water into different spots? Is that what?
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one of the discussions, but infiltration is the most important part of this project, stormwater-wise. Detention won't help their problems with the volume, only infiltration will help.
Yeah,
So that way, if we convert that system, then we're going to compound our problems on this issue.
Yeah. So the only way to decrease the stormwater volume in the post condition to meet the pre-condition would be to get rid of that stormwater, right? And how would you get rid of it? The only way to do that is what Allison had said, to infiltrate it into the ground. That's the only way you're gonna actually decrease it. Which is why the infiltration basins are so crucial for the project. And as well as the locations where we were able to find some pockets where we underneath the parking lots, we were able to do some underground infiltration systems as well.
So, as she mentioned, there's probably some movement that can occur. It's not going to achieve literal compliance, but we should be able to balance interests here. So as long as the board takes a reasonable approach on that, and we're taking a reasonable approach, we should be able to get to a further point of agreement, but that would still require some form of a waiver.
Okay, just a couple more things, if I may, Mr. Chair. The retaining wall that runs along the power lines, how high is that? I thought that was like 50-something feet.
So that is a cut wall. So to the south, it's higher in grade, and then to the north on our site where we have the site access road, it's lower. At its highest point, the wall is around 50 feet. And the highest point is, essentially to the left where those top wall, bottom wall callouts are. And then as you move east, that wall tapers down to meet grade. So where it ends right there is tapering down to meet grade.
And you're saying that retaining wall will not be visible from Middlesex?
No, because you won't be able to see the site because the site's gonna be lower than the grade to the south where the easement is. So you would only be able to see that wall if you're in the site looking towards the south. Because we're actually cutting our site down when you compare it to the utility easement.
So again, driving up Middlesex towards Nashua, I look over, I'm not going to see a wall there. Is that what you're saying?
She's saying that because of the grade of the power line area.
It's like this.
Exactly.
It's either down here.
It's 50 feet, but it's sunken down.
Comes up. So I guess I'm trying to understand this. The power lines are up on a hill, they come down. You're up on a hill, but yet you will be below the power lines then?
Yes, our site road would be below,
Not the road, this part of it right here, where it's 50 feet. I'm
Yeah.
trying to understand why you would need a 50-foot wall if it's going to be lower than where the power lines are now.
so where that top of wall, bottom wall call out is, the existing grade's around 260 feet in elevation. That's like a high point. So basically essentially a hill.
Okay?
Our finished floor elevation for this building is 213. So the site road's in that area around 208. So that's why there has to be that much of a cut and why there's a 50-foot wall on that side.
So you're gonna be cutting where the building is and where the wall is and leaving this alone that's out here by the power lines?
Yes.
Correct.
So they're gonna be digging, from what I understand, digging down here and putting
Correct.
the wall to retain the
Correct.
dirt from the hill?
Yes.
Correct.
And what's going to sit between that wall and the dirt then from the power lines? There'll be a gully in there?
No. I mean, we're essentially leaving the grades to be
It's-
left up higher, and you're gonna be cutting down to the site.
If I may, you have a hill going up to the power lines, and you're digging into the hill.
Yes, yeah.
Mr. Chair?
You're actually, from what I gather, you're digging down.
Yes.
The hill is gonna remain here, and the wall is gonna be inside, so you can see the wall only from their building.
Inside, right. Correct. So I was-
We're gonna keep seeing.
Correct.
what we see
Okay,
going
all right,
on.
I get it, all right. I thought the
Hard to
parking lot...
visualize when it's
Yeah,
just
Up
in your head.
on
And when it's
paper.
just that plan view, it's hard to.
okay. I understand now, thank you.
Thanks, Chaz, I needed that too.
Yeah. And I'm not familiar with these whips. You said you're going to put 350 in, 60, 70% survive, so that's 210 to 245 that would survive. I'd like to see a lot more trees or something put in there.
I mean, that's more than a 2-to-1 ratio in terms of what they're taking out in that area. It's only
That
90,
area, but-
only 90 trees being removed there.
Right, but overall, you're taking out 6,000 trees for this site.
Well,
So
I mean,
anything along the edges that you could put some more trees back in, or something for the deer to eat, maybe some, not bittersweet, but honeysuckle or something like
I mean,
that.
we'll take a look at it to try to maximize it as best we can,
Yep.
but, I mean,
That's all I'm asking.
impervious is impervious, building's building, it's a big project, it's got a big impact over there, but the benefits to the town outweigh the detriments from the tree removal, in my opinion. But yeah, we'll take another hard look at the landscape plan.
Will we be discussing traffic later?
Yes.
Okay, I'll hold my questions for that then. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Dave,
I'm good. Chaz, yeah, I'm good for now.
anyone else? Kim, Jeremy? Good.
Okay,
Back to you.
thanks. Carrie, come up. This is Carrie Pike.
Have anything particular in terms of slides with me tonight, so I'm happy to answer questions.
I will say this before you do that. I mean, again, Mass DOT engineering department's going to have a very invasive review as it relates to placement of the light, traffic patterns, ingress and egress, traffic volumes, as it relates not only to our project, but as it interrelates to the other projects around it. So we still have that in front of us and you. So you should realize that there's a team of engineers that are going to be beating us up in that process too, to try to get Mass DOT approval. So,
Right, starting with our MEPA process, which is also underway now. So Mass Environmental Policy Act process, we had to file the same things we filed with you with the state. So they've already begun that process of review.
Jeremy?
Sure. So this is traffic portion, right? Okay.
yes.
All right, so I wanted to go back to the report. I think it was, I guess I can point to page 28 where it talks about the project trip generation. I couldn't find, and I thought I found it before, but I couldn't find it again about the existing traffic and what that is. And if we could point out just what the percentage increase we're dealing with right now for this project and the project in front, and what that projected increase is. Going back to just how we try to review this portion of it, understanding about the 25% impact that we have possibly on for the within, I think, 1,000 feet from the site. We have, I hope you can respect that we have a very unique situation here where we have a northbound, the southbound traffic on Route 3 can only exit off of Route 1. I understand we're Tyngsborough. We have a neighboring property, Nashua, that has a very significant impact to this project because we're going to force those trucks to get off on Spitbrook Road, hit 13 lights all the way to this site. Everybody in this town patronizes every place around exit 36 and exit 1. So, the increase of potentially 1,500 possibly trucks, 18-wheelers coming down into this area, I just want to understand the full implications of all the intersections that we're dealing with. I mean, 13 intersections is pretty significant. And I understand that we're trying to do offset peak hours. I'm a little nervous about that backup of traffic all the way down Daniel Webster and Middlesex, that those trucks are going to want to start coming down to exit, I would say, the old 35. And they're going to be coming down to our center of town, taking a left-hand turn on Middlesex Road, and coming back up to the site. So I'm a little nervous about the traffic impact and how it's going to redirect flow through this through our community. And quite honestly, I know we can do some things and state that we have the people that are going to be the businesses here, that we strictly direct them to come down exit 1. But what impact is that going to have down that road and coming southbound now? And then, you know, if we look at the exit off of Route 3, so you have a combination there now. You have the trucks coming up Route 3 off of exit 36. Sorry, forgive me, I always refer to my old
I
numbers.
think it's 91
Sure.
now. I have the same trouble.
So we have going northbound, we're coming off of there. And then you have the trucks coming southbound. So you have them combining at that point. So then we have all of the traffic from that exit going through 4 lights down to where they're going to take a right-hand turn into the site. So those are my main concerns. I think when you start looking at some of the maps on, I think, table 1141, there's an impact to Middlesex, locus in Middlesex, that is a D, located as a D, and maybe you can explain a little bit further what that means. But before I get there, I'm going to just finish up with my last comment right now, and that was going into more detail of signage inside the site. I'm a little nervous about the people leaving Nature's Remedy, and I think it can just be resolved with some signage. You know, when you're leaving that extra parking lot that's created, there should be a sign right there, left to Route 3, Nashua, New Hampshire, right to Tyngsborough, or something of that nature to direct the flow of traffic. And then, once you take that left, now you have the people that are going to be sitting at that stop sign to take a left onto the driveway. When they're taking that, there should be an extra sign there to warn that, you know, I don't know if it can be like caution, trucks entering from left, something of that nature, just because I anticipate that those 18-wheelers coming around that and taking that right at a pretty rapid clip, and just an extra caution for the people leaving the parking lot.
I mean, there's certainly no opposition from the applicant on whatever signage the board feels that would provide maximum public safety within the site, so.
Well, just
those are non-issues.
Just because we already see the traffic flow issues coming out of Nature's Remedy and people taking lefts out of there right now, so maybe that would just help.
Yeah,
Get
I
them
do
around the
think
site.
that, you know, us providing them access to the new traffic signal is going to help that situation that's currently out there today of how they come out and try to take a left onto Middlesex Road. You know, being able to do that with a light would obviously be safer.
And if I may, just our traffic study currently, as you've done it, it only goes to exit 36, right? Or coming off of exit 91, whatever it is, right? Is that, it doesn't go any further into New Hampshire at all, right?
Correct.
And that's where, I mean, we're right there. I mean, it's very close. As soon, and there, we have, like I was saying, those 13 extra lights going up there that are all going to be impacted. We can't say anything about that. I just think that there's no reason that we shouldn't be good neighbors to our neighbors to the north and say, has there been any outreach at all to the city of Nashua to show them a good faith effort of, here's what we're proposing right next to your city, just if there's any comments and if there's anything that that they would have. Has there been any conversations like that yet?
I don't believe so, no. I mean, I'm sure Nashua's view is going to be, we're getting no tax revenue from this. You know, I don't know how.
I would respect it if Nashua did it for us, that's all. And I just, if there's, I get it that they're a city, they're a little different than Tyngsborough, but we would be doing a disservice to our residents of Tyngsborough that patronize all those, all that retail in there to begin with, and if, and just the city of Nashua and all those citizens as well.
I think what I'd like to see is, I'm dealing with Mass DOT's engineers right now on traffic considerations on another large-scale project. So I see how their team is operating and how they're evaluating these issues. I think what I'd like to hear is their perspective on that first, in terms of how expansive the review would be. I suspect they're going to take a much more heavy-handed approach to the analysis than what this board is taking. So I think I'd like to hear from them thoughts on traffic first before we do anything to reach out to another municipality. I understand the point, but I just want to be judicious in how I approach that.
Could you comment on the level D for Locust and the impact on
Yes, and
that?
apologies, this is what happens when you don't print anything, is I don't have the report right in front of me tonight. So, like your question about percent increase in traffic, I can get you that answer, probably not right this instant, but we definitely can do that math for you. So generally speaking, when we look at kind of arterials, which is, and collector roads, which is kind of more like what Middlesex Road is, which means it's not your local road where, you know, you, like, that's the street that you live on, right, is local road. Those connect into bigger roads, which then connect into major roads like Route 3 and things like that. We say in kind of urban and suburban, I wouldn't consider Tyngsborough to be rural. Level of service D is kind of generally acceptable. It means you notice that there's traffic on the road. You're not necessarily having to sit through multiple light cycles to wait to get through. That would be more like an E or an F. If you're having to wait, you know, and you see the light change and you barely move in the queue, and then you see the light change again, that's level of service F. That's when people get frustrated. D is generally considered acceptable in urban and kind of suburban situations where, I don't want to go into too much traffic signal theory, but traffic signals, generally speaking, depending on how big the intersection is, and some of the ones on Middlesex Road are larger. If you start to add in things like left turn, arrows, potentially in multiple directions, all of that inherently adds to how much base delay you have at a traffic signal. So, for example, you might have to wait a minute just because it takes that long even in the middle of the night for the traffic signal to service. Let's say there's a car waiting on every approach, right? Or there's a left turner. So there's some of that kind of thing. So that's why we say, like, in an urban situation where a lot of times you have more complicated situations, level of service D is acceptable. If you have things where you don't have a left turn lane, but you do have left turns happening, those are the kind of things that, if you're the person that's wanting to go through, but you're stuck behind the left turner, all of those, the software takes all of that into consideration based on the numbers and the methodology, and how long each direction gets the green light. That factors in. So if you have something that has a really short cycle because it doesn't have a lot of volume, it might end up showing a longer delay because it has to wait that whole cycle around. Basically what I'm saying is, generally speaking, when we see a level of service D as traffic engineers, we don't get too alarmed, particularly in the greater Boston region. That isn't to say that when we see a level of service F, there's necessarily anything much we can do sometimes. Like if you're sitting in downtown Boston in traffic in rush hour, you can't, short of blowing the place up, there's no way to sort of make the traffic work better, right? You can't build more lanes. The traffic signals are probably maxed out. So like I said, for level of service D, generally speaking, we don't get too concerned. That being said, that isn't to say that there aren't tweaks that could be done to that traffic signal to potentially optimize it and make it work a little bit better than a D.
And that's the reason why I bring it up, is because currently you're a B, you're going from a B to a D. I kind of wanted a realistic view of what that means and what mitigation can happen to make that at least a C, because that's basically our baseline in our bylaws is the C impact. It shouldn't be above that. So D is currently above it. If we can get it down to the C, and that goes for the intersection leaving the facility as well. I think that is currently, as a build condition, that would be a D. So,
Yeah, and I'll double check these things, but I know with the site driveway, we did try to favor more Middlesex Road. So you may have an overall D, but, we're trying to make sure that we keep the main line flowing, understanding that might mean there's a little bit more queuing on our own site. And again, MassDOT is going to pick us to pieces on what that design looks like, and they definitely will be making sure that Middlesex Road is favored in terms of how the signal operates.
When
and
we're
also
back
how
here in 2 weeks, I'll have Carrie or Krista give some supplemental analysis on that for you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, can I chime in here? With everything, time is money. I don't see any trucks getting off at Spitbrook Road, sitting through all those lights to try and get down there. I see them all coming down to 113. If, traffic coming south, they can get off at 113. I'm not sure why we're even talking about Locust Road or Middlesex. They can get right back on Route 3 North, right there, and take the exit whatever it is.
Basically, they get off Route 3 South,
Yeah.
get back on Route 3 North.
Right back on
Yeah.
again.
I don't see that as being an issue, and we could, I mean,
Feel like
the tenants
quicker
can be
than
directed
hitting all
to
the
do that
lights.
with
Yeah.
some trucks.
You know, and we know you can
It makes
request
the,
the trucks
it makes
to
the
do
route about 2.5 miles longer, that's it.
Yeah,
Which is
no, I-
annoying Because the traffic-wise, it would be faster.
Chaz is,
It would be
Chaz is
faster
right,
than
Chaz
going-
is right on. That's
Yeah.
exactly what's gonna happen.
There's
So.
And
a lot of room
That's, I
there,
went
so-
over that, that's what I told you, I went for a ride that day, that's exactly what I did, that's the easiest route to do it.
And if, you know, you have to understand something too, is that as we deal with the tenants on what their operations and management plans are gonna be, you know, we're gonna deal with those traffic patterns. So I think if we're navigating them to that option, then, you know, Nashua,
I don't think they're
I
gonna
just-
wanna build an $85 million building and then, you know, have the
yeah,
police
deal
ticketing
with that, yeah.
trucks going in
Yeah,
and
yeah,
out
yeah.
left and
No,
right.
you're right. They're
so-
gonna get off, they're gonna loop around, they're gonna go right up back, yeah. So I think that minimizes the
And you
Nashua
got-
concern.
As you say, you're going through MassDOT, and they're gonna put you through the ringer there.
Oh, yeah.
For the traffic, so I think a lot of these questions are gonna get worked out, but good to bring them up.
Would we be able to adjust the traffic analysis with that scenario?
I'll have that included in the next presentation when we're back here in 2 weeks, how that impacts those percentages.
You good, Jeremy?
Good?
Tim?
I'm good.
Chaz?
so we also are looking at 400 employees, which I'm assuming are going to be somewhat local. And have we done any kind of studies? I mean, they're coming and going, that's 800 vehicles plus moving.
That's included, all of that's included as part of the traffic study. It's not just the trucks, it's also the employees.
Okay.
So, all of that's taken into
Well,
consideration.
I'll have them recall that out when we come back here.
Yeah, so you have looked at the Route 113 at Middlesex and what impact that would have on traffic backing up at that light? Same thing on the other side of the bridge, depending on where people are coming from?
We have not looked at one.
You're talking about employees,
I'm talking about employees coming up to want to go to, that may not want to.
depending upon where they live, you know.
Exactly. So I know how that backs up there during the day, and I'd like to have you do a study of what this impact could potentially be to the
Center of town,
center of town, right?
not a problem.
I'll have to double check if we have, I don't think we had
I
our
didn't, I didn't see
yeah,
it.
study
I
area
mean,
was not
I looked
that-
through this and I
that
did not
large
see
for this,
that,
but
so.
I think we may have data where we
I
could-
think there can be a down and dirty analysis of that, so.
Yeah.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair, thank you.
I'm good with it.
Is there any other part of the presentation you want to make, or any other questions, or? Okay, so I think what we'd like to do is we want to have that breakout session, you know, and then let's plan to be back here in 2 weeks, and hopefully at that point, you know.
Will we get there? Anybody from the audience
Oh,
want to
yes.
speak on it? Anybody?
What is the next date, Pam?
The 4th?
August 4th.
Nobody, has any concerns at this time, so
Mr. Chair, one more comment. We had discussed, or we had mentioned the possibility of solar on top of that building. We're talking, 11 acres, perfect spot for a solar farm. Any chance, Zach, that we can have that expectation?
Yeah, so we're designing the building so that the entire roof can support solar. We have not gotten too far along with any solar companies yet that would do that for us. We're not going to do it ourselves. We would like to put on a significant amount of solar for our NEPA because we're just a little too early right now. We had committed to the application that we're going to do, I think it's 10,000 square feet. The idea is to do more, but we're just not far enough along to know what that number is, so we didn't want to commit to anything more than what the minimum requirement was. But the idea is to, the design will support full solar on the roof. We just don't know what that number is going to be.
Okay. Thank you.
for continuance.
If we could have a continuance to August 4th, that would be great.
So moved.
Second?
All those in
Aye.
favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Okay, see you on August 4th.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be right back in.
Doug will just need a little time to set up for this.
Moving on, we have 50 Old Ting Road, map 21, parcel 23.
Thank you, folks.
1E. Frico Properties LLC, applicant for modification to the existing site plan special permit under section 1.16.20 of the Tyngsborough zoning bylaws to construct an additional 2 units, 4,800 square feet, building to be used as building trade shops.
Mr. Chair, this is a new hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of the legal ads in the abutter list.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you, Pam.
Hi. For the record, Doug Lees from Land Engineering and Environmental Services, here with Peter Nicosia. And the application, as was just read by the chairman, for the construction of a new building at 50 Old Ting Road. This project was originally permitted in June of 2019 for the existing building that's in the front of the lot. The existing building has been constructed. It's pretty close to completion. They just got the water meters installed today, and they're hoping to wrap it up in the next week or shortly thereafter. The existing building is 12,800 square feet. And during construction, he was poking around in the back at a spot on the lot that we thought was ledge, and dug down 16 feet of beautiful sand. So we realized we talked about trying to put a building up there originally with the previous builder, but we didn't because we thought there was ledge. And there's not. So we've come back here with a new plan to add a second building, a smaller building, about 4,800 square feet, 2 units, with its own parking up in the back. There'll be 8 parking spots plus 2 internal parking spots for that second building. And as part of this, we're going to connect the parking lot through to the property to the south, so that with a gate for fire access, and now the fire department will have a way, if they have to go up there, to get out. You can see the connection right there in the back. We've submitted a document from that condo association saying that they're agreeable to this, and the easements will be prepared, obviously. So it's really a small project compared to the one you were just looking at. It's just an extra building on the back of the site. It's up on the back of the hill. The buildings are 50 feet from the existing wetland. We got review comments from KNA, and we went through those, and we got a second letter today. I have revised waiver request letters because the construction, what's it called? Construction and design standards and details that the town adopted was adopted in.
I think I distributed a copy of this, if this is what you sent today.
Yeah.
I have. They all have it as
It was
well.
adopted in 2020 after we did the original site plan. So the original site plan wasn't designed to meet the standard of volume retained on site. And so there's a small increase in volume it's actually just from the area between the driveway coming in and the roadway, and the little piece of the area north of the driveway coming in that comes out to Old Ting Road. Areas that are landscaped, not from the pavement areas. It's just the areas where we cut down the trees and put in grass and other landscaping that change right there changes the volumes now. I was listening to the previous meeting, and they were talking about an acre foot of water, and we're talking about 80 cubic feet or 90 cubic feet of water. So it's we're talking about a couple 55-gallon drums, and they're talking about a significant amount of water. So we're requesting a variant waiver from that regulation. And again, it's for the areas in the front to Old Ting Road. Areas where no work is being done as part of this proposal, and it was built as previously approved. So this was as it was approved originally, with the exception that there's a slight increase because they took down some trees to put in a retention of stormwater basin during construction. there was some problems with the site next door during construction, so when we started this one, Conservation came out and suggested we put a stormwater basin along, like a sediment pond along the road. That was the area that was supposed to remain treed, so we dug a sediment pond along the road to catch the runoff, and now that area is no longer wooded, and the way the calculations work, if you have wooded area, you don't have any runoff for an A soil. As soon as you cut down the trees and plant grass, you have, we're talking about 1/10 of a CFS, or, 50, 80 cubic feet. It's not significant runoff, but it is.
Adds up over here.
It is runoff. So we added that waiver to the waiver request letter. The other waiver we're requesting was from having a landscape architect prepare a landscape plan. We had a landscape architect prepare the plan for our first building, the front building. So the only real changes to the landscaping is adding a couple of trees in the back and some plantings around the second building. The second building is only 4,800 square feet. Your bylaw requires a landscape architect for any project over 7,500 square feet. Totally, the project's over 7,500. We had the landscape architect prepare the plan for the front building, and was still using that plan moving forward. He hasn't done the plantings yet because he just got water today, so he didn't want to put the plantings in until he could irrigate. But, so we asked for a waiver from having the landscape architect prepare the plan for the second building, the 4,800 square foot building, which I'm not even sure we needed because it's under the threshold, but we figured to be complete, we would ask.
Anyone to say, Counselor?
I'm just a wallflower right now.
All right.
I got one, conservation had a comment about there might be some changes to the plantings. I think she typed plantings wrong, I think there's a typo. Along the 50-foot buffer along the parking lot and the building, the Conservation Commission wants plantings in that area. We're proposing some on the plan. I think it's mostly we're proposing high bush blueberry, but we haven't gone to the commission yet, and obviously we're gonna talk with them and plant what they want. We just proposed high bush blueberry because that seemed to be what was out there, but they may have other ideas, and if they do, we'll address it at the conservation meeting.
Might let you know tonight. Open it up to the board, Jeremy?
So the gate that you guys are proposing, that's just a locked gate that's for the fire department?
Yep.
Okay, and you said there's an agreement with the neighboring parcel for that?
For access and for utilities, we're tying into the utilities up there too, so, yeah, we submitted that agreement.
No other comments?
I'm just trying to figure, is that a little fence between the parking lot of the existing and then where the new building will be?
There's a retaining wall there,
Retaining wall?
yeah.
How tall is
It's
that?
about 6 to 8 feet, I think it's 8 feet at the tallest and 6 and tapers off.
I'm good.
Chaz?
So you have enough parking spaces and all that for this?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And the entrance in is, so is this Best Friends? Is that what's down below it?
To the right, yes, that's on the other side of the wetland.
This is Old Ting Road.
So
Best
what's,
Friends is an Old Ting Road.
It's on the right, though.
This is-
Yeah, but what he's talking about, what's down to the right of it, that's that building that they put up already, so they'd be going up that other road
Right,
and
but-
up top.
no, then I'm confused, because Glen Cole's off to the left,
Correct.
his buildings.
Yep.
And so what's the building that's existing now, then?
What is
That-
that?
Building that's existing on the site plans?
Yeah.
That's the first building, the building that was approved back in
They do the joint
2019.
So that's existing now?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, that's part of the special, we're modifying the existing special permit.
To add the,
So that's,
So this is not the spot where water has been collecting on Middlesex?
no,
During the winter? Okay, all right.
no, that's Technology Drive, I know, yeah.
Okay, I'm good for now, then. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Only question I have is that wall that you're gonna have right there, is there a fence proposed with that too? Because with that
I
sports
just
center
wrote down
being.
we need a fence on top of the
Okay,
wall, I
yeah,
didn't
because
see
with
one on
that
the
sports
plans.
center being
but-
back there, who knows where the kids go?
Yeah, no, there's gonna need to be one.
Yep. Okay.
Is there, can I ask a question? Is there space for a dumpster on this site?
We're gonna use the dumpster that's down below.
Okay.
open it up to the public. Any questions? Back to the board.
I guess my last comment, just making sure there's no storage outside. I think we kind of note that all the time on, I think we probably noted it on first building and the neighboring parcel, just that there's no,
I think it's in the special permit already, but
yep, so it's just,
reiterated.
yep, just reiterating, so that's it.
Do you have a timeline for this?
How soon you putting it up?
Well, probably I would try to get a lot of it done before the ground freezes. Not so much the building, but at least the utilities and the foundation, get that stuff inside. And then, you know, I don't know how long it takes to get a building anymore. Sometimes it's up to a year. I don't know.
Do you have a tenant already?
I don't.
Okay.
I may move in there myself. I'm next door. I bought half the building off of Glen on building number 1. Great contract, and you guys have probably seen us in town doing some work. So I may move in my operation into that building after the tax. Haven't decided.
And the building will be on a slab?
Yep. Yep. And I usually keep about 18-inch, reveal on the foundation, so I don't have to deal with water and snow getting in underneath the sill and all that.
Good.
I'm good.
So whatever you do here, you're gonna remain under the existing, I guess, conditions that this board has
Yes,
set?
the modification of the existing
The
special permit.
modification.
Yeah.
A motion from the board.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
So we need to, are you looking for a motion for an approval, right?
For modification.
For modification?
Mr.
I
Chair.
just want to make sure we know what the waivers are that we're trying to include.
Exactly. Yep. So the waivers are easily referenced on their July 21st letter from Land Engineering and Environmental Services, which was towards the top, I believe it was the top item or second item in your packet. So it's section 116.22.3 of the zoning bylaw and section 221A of the construction and design standards.
All right, I guess I can try. Is there any more discussion, or
Does
are we?
Allison have any further
Any
comments?
Allison?
No, I'm in support of the waiver, and I discussed it with the town engineer, and he is too, so I'm all set.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the special permit modification, or site plan special permit modification for 50 Old Ting Road, including waivers for section 1.162.2.3 of the zoning bylaw, and sections 2.1.a of the construction and design standards and details. Do I need to say anything else?
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
I feel like I didn't take up enough of your time, though. You want me to talk some more?
Let's come and get that foundation in.
Order
Okay,
the
Doug.
building.
We'll
Good
expect
luck.
more out of you next time, then.
Please don't encourage him.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Okay, moving
Doug,
on.
Doug,
Zero
Can you
Industrial
ask him about the
Way.
shields on those lights?
Self-storage facility request for acceptance of as-built plan and review of inspection report confirming correct installations of pipe connections and quality unit installations. Nobody here from the applicant?
Correct.
Coming from the applicant?
Say it again?
Not coming?
I spoke to him today. He asked, I said, I wasn't making any recommendations. I said he was invited to come. He said, does the board have everything that they need to make a decision? I said, we've collected as much information as we can.
So do we have that video?
The video, as I explained in the emails and the letters, your packet contains images from the inspection. Allison, myself, and Jeff Quirk met with the sewer department out on site. They had a camera that enables you to see inside the pipes, so they used the camera. We all checked the video that was on there to confirm the construction material of each pipe, their lengths and connectivity, and you now also have, so that documentation, you have the inspection report from K&A, and a letter drafted that includes testimony from Paul Preventure, the senior sewer foreman, and Doug LaTulip, who was assisting him, that we all confirmed that the pipes run the correct length between the chambers, the water quality units and catch basins, that the pipes were not perforated and were the correct material, and that the recent rain events provided conclusive evidence that the system appears to be operating correctly since water was at the expected and proper levels at all points that we looked at. And we opened every single section within the system.
I thought at the last meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, we requested him to do a video camera so we could view it and have K&A go over the original plan and the video so we could see if there was any difference in what he put in the ground.
Right, so
Compared to
the engineers that were on site used the camera per requested, it's just, it doesn't produce images that I can share.
So I guess, first of all, does the town do that for everybody, the sewer department, so we have that service?
Nope, when I was looking for a camera that was available and was mentioning it to the inspectional services departments, the sewer department mentioned that they had a camera, so I reached out to that department. The sewer department created an invoice for the services, so it's not something that we're giving away to the applicant.
Well, there is video services that have it, and that's what we requested, but we'll open it up to the board. Jeremy?
No comments at this time.
Kim?
I guess I feel confident based on the fact that K&A was there and that you looked at the pictures.
Chaz?
We had requested a video, however, I feel confident that I don't need to see the video of everything going through. If our sewer department looked at it, the K&A's assurance that everything is working the way it should. They did put a camera down there, there are images here that we can look at.
These,
Been signed
the only
off
problem I
on.
have with these images is, I could have gone there and taken these with my own camera. There's really nothing, that I see the line going in to the pipe, but we don't see anything in the pipes.
Right,
We don't see,
the way the camera works, like, the camera's you've probably seen these machines, so the camera is connected through a cable to essentially a UHF or a VHS screen. So I tried taking pictures or video of what was on the screen, but all you get is a reflection of me holding my camera. So I made sure that the people that were in attendance saw exactly what the camera was displaying, and we used their testimony to provide the information that the board requested.
So what's he looking for an as-built? Like, do we have an as-built of the underground system?
Yes, it's in your packet.
I looked at one at the house, and the as-built is, how much different, Allison, is the as-built compared to the original approval?
I believe I have, I did check over the as-built when it came in, and it wasn't vastly different, yeah. It was not, I didn't notice anything different.
So the as-built is exactly how he proposed it?
Yes.
I want to correct that. In this application, the applicant provided engineering data to K&A to explain the differences between the as-built and what was approved from a drainage perspective. And K&A and the engineering company that provided that information explained that it was sufficient to meet the stormwater standards, which was confirmed. So the as-built that you have here today is exactly what was constructed and what was accepted from the engineers.
But it's not what was proposed originally.
Right, and we've gone over that like previously.
I remember.
Okay.
I remember going over it a month ago that we were gonna get a video of it too, and that's what, to go through the system so that Allison could show us any differences. And this is totally because somebody, you know, presented an as-built that wasn't as-built.
Right, what you have in front of you is the corrected and actual as-built.
And you're saying it's no different than the original proposal, Allison?
Yes, so the original as-built that came in had things on there that weren't in the field, but then that was corrected, the things were added in the field, and now it matches the plan.
But it's different from the original that you
No.
proposed, or not?
No, it now, everything now matches what was approved.
So the original proposal that came into us over a year ago, that he was gonna design it, is the same design, and now it's just confirmed by you.
Right, now we've come full circle where it matches what was approved.
Not what was approved, but what was, I guess, submitted originally.
Are you saying the plan set or the
The plan set,
as-built?
the original plan set that he
Right.
submitted, that he built, or gave us, that we approved,
Yeah,
it's all built according to the original prints that he gave us and design. I don't know why you're looking at him.
well, because now I'm confused because there was an approved plan set, am I not?
From the original design.
Yes, but you're saying the original plans that
The
were not
original plans,
approved.
well, that we
that-
approved here at this
Okay.
meeting. I just want to know if there's any difference in that.
Not
That's,
that I'm aware of. The water quality units were installed, the underground's the same.
Right, so I mean, there's slight alterations with regards to the direction of some of the pipes and lines that run along the entryway.
what are the differences?
And
Do you-
this-
Do you know what they are, or can Allison point them out?
And I believe some of the sizes of the chambers differ from the original design. So when that was discovered, the system itself that was installed was reevaluated, because when it was discovered during our first on-site inspection saying this doesn't match the designs, the applicant came in and said, oh, well, we had to change certain components of the system. So he provided images of what was installed. That information was provided to K&A. He used a different engineering company because his original engineer wasn't available to basically provide certification that the performance of the stormwater system that was installed met the same standards and performed at the same level as what was originally proposed. And that was confirmed by K&A.
Correct, but I guess for my own benefit, is I don't know what was changed from the original. I know there was talk about it was changed, and he couldn't do certain things. They did certain things with different pipes, I guess, you know.
The size of the chambers, in terms of the differences between the original plan and what you see before you as the as-built, the size of the chambers are altered, and when we originally went out there, the water quality units weren't there, and they have obviously now been installed. So really, the only changes between the original design and what is currently built is the sizes of the chambers that are on site.
Do we have a letter from Allison? Do we have a letter from the changes that you reviewed?
Yes, we do. Nope, looking at the wrong application. Up on the screen are the engineering letters that were reviewed by K&A. I'd have to go back to the responses inside my files to see what K&A responded. These are the systems that were installed.
This was the first time or the second time?
Well, these are the only time, meaning these are the only chambers that were installed. These are not the water quality units. The water quality units are the round things that basically provide a circular flow and separate materials in the water to make it cleaner once it hits the drainage system.
I guess just to keep the file clean, just for myself, and not to confuse anybody, because it's nobody's fault that's here, and I know we want this business to be open and thrive, but I think for the record, I think if you can, Allison, just do a small report of what he proposed, the difference, and that you okayed it. I think
That was gonna
I
be
can
my
look it up,
question.
but-
Who okayed the changes when he changed this originally? Who, did he
Right.
come back?
Nobody did. That was the
All
big
right.
problem.
I thought you had said that before, okay.
So that was the big problem. So when the systems were installed, they should have called to provide, it was a good thing that they took pictures, because without that, I'm not sure what the mitigation would have been or what the mediation would have been. But because those pictures were taken and the systems that were installed were documented through his own second engineer, Control Point, those engineering documents were reviewed by K&A and certified. I don't have K&A's response to that letter in the meeting packet folder here today because it's already been processed and reviewed. I only added new information to the meeting packet folder tonight. If it's necessary for me to bring up this evening, if you give me a couple minutes, I can dig it up and put it on the screen.
I just think I'd like it cleaner, and if you could just, give us something that says, review the first one, you reviewed the changes, and, you agree that they're gonna be all set, and then with this letter of, whatever looked at, I might feel a little more comfortable, but, to be honest with you, I'm not comfortable at all getting this far. I mean, I get it, but, he could have went out and hired somebody to do the sewer check instead of the town doing it, and with the video, so we could see it, and you could have explained the changes, to us, but that's just how I feel. It's just up to the board, if you wanna go with what they have, but I'd just like a letter, stating the changes, one clean letter, with the dates of what you did, Allison, to, correct the problem that they created. And the other thing, I'm assuming, do we have the 53G money on this for you? Eric?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so, if we can do that, I'd feel a lot more comfortable having one clean letter at the end stating all the issues and the problems and how you rectified it and what the differences were.
Yeah, I have no problem doing
Yeah,
that.
no, that's good. I'm glad, but I think it would just be cleaner for the board after all this problem, so if we do have an issue, we don't have to go looking for letters. We have one letter, that goes with the final answer, and we pull it up, and here it is.
Eric, one other question. Can I ask what the town received for payment? And if we have received payment for it?
For what?
For the services to the sewer department?
It hasn't been, I have an invoice request from the sewer department, but it'll be for the two individuals' time that they were there, which is about an hour.
So
Any
maybe,
comments?
maybe $100?
It'll probably be, well, probably, I guess, about that. I don't know what their hourly rates are. I'm assuming it can't be much more than $40 an hour, so somewhere around 80.
Any comments, board, you guys, feel free to make a motion to vote on it if you want, but
I'll back you, Steve, about your comment. I think we're right there at the finish line, barring the final report. What has been done, I think there's a reason why we're here, so just, we're there. We're right at the finish line. We just need that final piece of
I
paper.
just think it makes it a lot cleaner to explain it all. Eric don't have to go looking for letters from communications from months ago, and
Right, if somebody looks
Mr.
back
Chair.
at this 10 years from now, we know
I'd like to
exactly
also
how
add in that we do not vote on this until the sewer department is paid for their services.
I mean, you could make that a condition of
Yeah.
the approval, which is fine.
I'm sure he'd want to get it paid and done with. I just, it's a nice service to have, I guess, be able to utilize. Okay, so continuance, any motions?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue Zero Industrial Way to our next meeting on August the 4th.
So I just want to make sure I know the motion's on the floor, but I want to make sure I'm clear on like what needs to be created or delivered in order for you to finish. So you're looking,
To Allison, a letter stating the changes that were made from the original approved plan to the final plan, the changes that were in there incorporated, and then your verification that the system that's been changed is gonna work and will accomplish what the original one did, and that it's all there in, on paper and how it's documented.
okay, so I just have one quick question. So if there's no actions that need to be taken by the applicant and it's a documentation from the planning board's engineer.
I want to see the paper before I vote, if that's what you get into. Can we vote pending that? No, I want to read it first.
Okay.
If that was your question, I'm sorry if it
Yeah,
wasn't.
my
I jumped the gun.
Well, the reason I was asking was because if nothing is changing on site and K&A is here to testify that the information that she'd be putting in the report, like she can verbally confirm for you, you could basically say that the documentation needs to be received and,
I want to see what the changes were and how dramatic they were. And I want to see what I originally approved and what was changed, and, who authorized the changes. They did. The town didn't, they did.
right.
So, yeah.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, Allison.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of June 16th, 2022 as written.
If I may, I believe there's a lot of details that was left off of it from board comments for the 406 and 424 Middlesex Road. I know there was a lot of comments from the applicants and the engineering, but we had a lot of board comments that weren't in the minutes, and if we could get those comments in there. We made comments on any number of things from traffic and lighting and everything else, just similar to what we did tonight, but I believe those should be in there.
Do you have the specifics?
I can get them too if you'd like.
That would be helpful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I can write some.
You don't want to watch the meeting again?
I wasn't present for the meeting. I watched the meeting, and it was difficult to hear because of the sound, so.
All right, so we'll get that, and it's all set with them next meeting or meeting after. Any new business topics that we didn't anticipate?
I do have one document that I received after the agenda was posted. An inspection was performed on June 24th at Triple Crown Estates per the board's request. I have copies of the report. I'll go over the details. If anybody wants to take a copy for their own records, feel free to do so. It's also been loaded into the meeting packet folder. The highlights are essentially that the inspecting engineer was surprised to see a fairly large, few hundred foot long area that was excavated along the left side of the road. The gravel along the road shoulder had been removed and the existing binder had been left with a jagged edge, and they weren't sure why the area was cut, but could only assume that the work was done for the proposed sidewalk. There is a 5-foot wide sidewalk and a grass strip that is designed to be on that side of the road. Since the shoulder had been removed and the edge of the pavement was exposed, they asked the site engineer to set up safety barriers, cones, barrels, caution tape, etc., to warn any vehicles that are entering the site based on the low shoulder. And they found the above cut to be unusual because it seemed to be missing some of the substrate material, so he was recommending that they add approximately 6 inches of gravel as quickly as possible before that goes in. I provided the report to the building commissioner in case he visits before I have a chance to go by, but I received it yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to swing by to see how the site might have changed since June 24th.
And you did call them for inspection, so correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this gravel, I guess, the sub base of the road should be good, correct?
Right, this was done after the binder was put in, so it looks like they're preparing for sidewalk installation. It just seemed, for whatever reason, kind of strange the way that they did it.
Have people living out there?
Yeah, there are some homes occupied. He mentioned that it looks like there's some residents that have moved into the new house on the cul-de-sac. And he had initial recommendations such as immediately sweeping the existing road, separating construction areas from the occupied areas for added safety with signage, and cleaning and repairing the erosion control silt sacks in the storm grates. Some of them are still full.
Did they ever build the bus stop?
No, not yet. I wouldn't have met.
Wasn't that supposed to be built before an occupancy?
I'll double check some of the conditions, but I don't know if it had to be finished before an occupancy. I'll take a look.
Thanks. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Well, if I may, the zoning review committee, we met this past week. I think we had a very productive meeting. I think the entire committee's committed to trying to get something at town meeting this fall, and we're really not trying to expand our scope too broadly within the document. Really trying to, we call it the crosswalk, trying to get what we have for an outline of our bylaws into a simpler form, and really just try to take the verbiage from from our original and put it into a new format, but keep the wording as simple or as light as we can. Really focusing on Mass General Law items that should be absolutely changed because our bylaws don't meet law right now. And for example, that'd be something like needing a special site plan review for educational uses, things of that nature that we can't even though it's written into our bylaws for the table of use, we can't even do that. So Judy Barrett and her group are really focusing on changing those items and not really focusing on, and we had very in-depth discussions about some certain items and trying to word them. And I think ultimately we came down to the conclusion we're not going to have enough time to rewrite the wording of some of these, even though they're poorly written, because there's just so much effort on their part to get it in front of town meeting. Now, if that gets approved, because I think we want to express to the general public that we're not trying to change things that would change the development in town. It's really changing the way we are able to read our bylaws. And then, if we come to spring meeting, that can start focusing on specific items that really become pertinent to the committee that we feel that needs to be changed. And then we're working at backwards. So I think we're working at, I think our next meeting is August 31st, because they need to open the public meeting from the planning board's perspective to open it to the general public for comments. And I think we're trying to shoot for two, is that right, Chaz? 2 public meetings?
Yeah, so we'll have a public meeting on the 1st of September and then another one on the 15th. And then we'll have our document ready for town meeting. And to Jeremy's point, we're really just reorganizing, changing things to make it compliant with Mass General Law, so that the changes are absolutely minimum, so that we can go to town meeting and say, look, we haven't changed anything except a few verbal things to make it read a little bit easier and to make it a little bit more understandable. But the main changes is just reformatting our existing bylaws, and with the intent going forward to actually address some of the bylaws that really need to be fixed at the spring town meeting.
Like one thing, we're changing Board of Selectmen to Select Board everywhere. Like just general things like that. That's more the verbiage that we'll focus on rather than change an entire section and reword it, because we picked up some sections that were started like that, and then we realized that was we're getting too much in the weeds of things and bogging things down that way.
A lot of work, though, it is. huh?
There is tons of work.
Yeah.
What's the
Ridiculous.
timeline for this?
So
September, right?
so we want to have it ready for October 25th town meeting, just the formatting, reformatting, and some verbal changes and Mass General Law updates. And then in spring town meeting, the committee will decide which areas we want to focus on to make some changes. So, and we'll have some kind of this is what it says now, just so that we can present the actual changes, so it'll go as smoothly as possible at town meeting.
Yeah, I think this is the most important thing to get approved by the town, and we don't want to overburden it and cause an issue with it getting passed. So keep it simple now.
How many in the group?
2 ZBA, 2 planning board, 1 selectman, and 1 resident.
It's a good mix. I'm very happy with the committee, to be honest with you.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Take your motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.